Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 2018 annual dinner. As many of you know, I'm Catherine Rafelson, president of SID-Washington. We are delighted to have so many people here tonight. We are busting at the seams. In fact, this is the largest crowd we've ever had for our annual dinner. We even have people seated in the balcony, so wave to them up there. And it's quite the melting pot of people and organizations, with NGOs, contractors, private sector firms, consulting firms, government agencies, universities, think tanks, big businesses, small businesses, ambassadors, CEOs, students, and everything in between. And speaking of students, we have students and recent graduates from Arizona State University, Thunderbird, Georgetown, Duke, George Washington University, George Mason, Howard University, American University, Johns Hopkins, and I am probably leaving a few out. And I want to thank ASU, RTI, and FHI 360 for sponsoring many of these students so that they could be here tonight. And I say this every year, but it bears repeating. Our students and young professionals are our future leaders. And through events like this, we can instill in them our values and our concerns, our priorities, and more, and we pave the way for them. And from them, we can get ideas, innovations, and energy. They are also probably our future bosses, so keep that in mind. As you know, we have gathered tonight to honor UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Fore for her exceptional contributions to international development. And we will also pay tribute tonight to Kofi Annan, who died earlier this year. But before we go into our official program, we want to let you eat and mingle some more. And before we do that, and speaking of mingling, I'd like to thank Nathan Associates for that terrific reception. And I also want to thank our two diamond-level sponsors, Arizona State University and Chemonics, for their extraordinary support of tonight's event. And they each have made a short video for you. And please feel free to continue eating during the video.
Arizona State University, ranked #1 in America for innovation, in Thunderbird School of Global Management. For more than 70 years, the vanguard of global leadership and management. Now together, providing transdisciplinary education that helps students and working professionals meet the demands of a world grappling with the challenges of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In this time of unprecedented volatility, businesses and organizations from around the world face challenges difficult to understand, let alone address. Our students are prepared not only with rigorous curriculum, but also with applied experiential learning opportunities in the field. So they graduate with more than knowledge. They graduate with hands-on experience that enables them to hit the ground running. With global hubs around the world, ASU and Thunderbird come to you, delivering unique learning outcomes that graduates take with them into the workplace and the communities they serve.
At Chemonics, we believe that tomorrow's world must be better than today's. So we invest in a strong foundation for tomorrow's leaders and support those leading the charge today. Strengthening education systems, we partner with local governments, teachers, and the private sector to improve the lives of millions of children, especially in environments disrupted by conflict. And we work with youth to prepare them for the workforce and enable them to lead change in their own communities. Our global workforce shares an unwavering resolve to provide young people with opportunities to learn, grow, and reach their full potential, transforming their future and the future we all share. Congratulations to Henrietta Fore on receiving the SID-Washington Leadership and Development Award. Thank you for ensuring today's children become tomorrow's leaders.
Thank you again. again to ASU and Chemonics. And thank you to all of our sponsors. Their names are in your programs, on signs outside this room, on your tables, on our website, and in social media. And we are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Now, please carry on, and we'll reconvene in about 45 minutes with our program. Thank you. I hate to interrupt this lively chatter, but I will. Coffee is coming and will be served, but we're going to go ahead because we have a lot to say. So, we lost a great leader this year when Kofi Annan died in August. I don't think I really need to tell the people in this room who Kofi Annan was, but I will tell you a few things about him. He was born in Ghana. He had a twin sister. He attended MIT and Macalester College in the US. He first joined the United Nations in 1962 and served in a variety of positions, including 10 years as Assistant Secretary General, before being appointed Secretary General in 1997. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001 together with the UN. And after he left the UN in 2006, he established the Kofi Annan Foundation, based in Switzerland, which focuses on mobilizing political will to overcome threats to peace, development, and human rights. Under his leadership at the UN, the Millennium Development Goals were established, and he encouraged the private sector to participate in development. For this, Forbes magazine called him the father of the corporate sustainability movement. He believed in the power of partnerships. He worked to strengthen the UN's partnerships with civil society, the private sector, and others outside of government, whose strengths complemented those of the UN. We also believe in the power of partnerships at SID-Washington. As many of you have heard me say before, partnerships are really the foundation of SID-Washington. In fact, most of you tell me that the main reason you belong to SID-Washington or come to our events is to meet potential partners or strengthen existing partnerships. We do this largely through events like this. I often say that SID-Washington is primarily a convener. What we do is convene people as well as thoughts, ideas, and knowledge. Kofi Annan urged people to intervene. In his autobiography, which is called Interventions, he said, "I wish for a world in which men and women of every nation achieve a measure of dignity and opportunity in their individual lives that allows each of them to serve others and to stand up to the forces of justice and inequality wherever they exist. In other words, to intervene." And I realized that is what you all do. You all intervene. And your interventions make a difference. SID-Washington is proud to be the convener of interveners. Thanks. Thank you. Another word that comes to mind when I think of the word convene is unite. They are really very similar and convey a sense of coming together. Kofi Annan called for a truly united nations. And in fact, that is one of his many great contributions to international development, his transformation of the United Nations. I'd like to let you hear in his voice some of his thoughts on all this.
I remain convinced that the only answer to this divided world must be a truly united nations. Climate change, HIV/AIDS, fair trade, migration, human rights, all these issues and many more bring us back to that point. Addressing each is indispensable for each of us in our village, in our neighborhood, and in our country. Each of us must share the pain of all who suffer and the joy of all who hope. That is what the founders of this organization believed in. It is what I believe in. It is what the vast majority of people in this world want to believe in. Together, we have pushed some big rocks to the top of the mountain, even if others have slipped from our grasp and rolled back. But this mountain, with its brazen wings and global views, is the best place on earth to be. It's been difficult and challenging, but at times thrillingly rewarding. I yield my place to others with an obstinate feeling, a real obstinate feeling of hope for our common future.
SID-Washington pays tribute to Kofi Annan for his dedication throughout his life to our field and elevating and maintaining development as a core mission of the United Nations during his tenure. We are truly honored to have with us tonight 3 members of Kofi Annan's family: his sister's son, Samuel Arthur, his brother's daughter, Ama Asafu Ajay, and Ama's husband, Kofi. I'd like to ask Ama to come accept the small token of our gratitude to your uncle, Kofi Annan, for his enormous contribution to the world and to the field of international development.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is with mixed feelings I stand before you to receive this honor from the Society for International Development on behalf of my late uncle, Kofi Annan. Since my uncle's passing on the 18th of August, the Annan family and staff of the Kofi Annan Foundation have been deeply moved by the countless messages, well wishes, sympathy, and encouragement that we have received from people all around the world. Uncle Kofi was a global statesman and a deeply committed internationalist who fought throughout his life for a fairer and more peaceful world. During his distinguished career and leadership of the United Nations, he was an ardent champion of peace, sustainable development, human rights, and the rule of law. Uncle Kofi's numerous accomplishments as Secretary General included, but were not limited to, playing a central role in the creation of the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, the adoption of the UN's first ever counterterrorism strategy, and the acceptance by member states of the responsibility to protect people from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity. One of his main priorities was the development of a comprehensive program of reform that sought to revitalize the United Nations and make the international system more effective. He was a constant advocate for human rights, the rule of law, and sought to bring the organization closer to the global public by forging ties with civil society, the private sector, and other partners. After stepping down from the United Nations, he continued to work tirelessly in the cause of peace through his chairmanship of the Kofi Annan Foundation and as chair of the Elders, group founded by the late, great Nelson Mandela. Healthy societies, he would say, are built on peace, inclusive development, and human rights. There can be no peace without inclusive development, and there can be no lasting development without peace, and no society can long remain prosperous without the rule of law and respect for human rights. Under his leadership, the Kofi Annan Foundation designed and launched initiatives to assist countries and communities to achieve those objectives and to move forward on the road to peace. The foundation is working to safeguard elections and democratic practice, encourage reconciliation after conflict, deploy youth leadership to counter violent extremism, ensure food security in Africa, and support peace processes that really produce lasting peace. Uncle Kofi was a son of Ghana and felt a special responsibility towards Africa. He was particularly committed to African development and deeply engaged in many initiatives, including his early leadership of the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. Sadly, Uncle Kofi's time on earth has come to an end, but his moral voice is not stilled. Wherever there was suffering or need, he reached out and touched many people with his deep compassion and empathy. We hear his voice in our hearts, whether a busy day at the office or rushing the kids to school. He always reminded us to be courageous, respectful, and understanding in our everyday lives. He selflessly placed others first, radiating genuine kindness, warmth, and brilliance in all he did. He will remain in our hearts forever. On behalf of the Annan family, I would like to say thank you for this honor.
Well, it's a little bit hard to follow that. Thank you so much, Ama, for those wonderful words about your Uncle Kofi. Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to our annual dinner. I'm Melissa Logan, Chair of the Board of Directors for SID-Washington, and we're very delighted that all of you can be with us here this evening. I'm extremely humbled to be in the position to honor two such remarkable people this evening. Kofi Annan, as well as Executive Director Henrietta Fore. Turning to our honoree, it is an incredible privilege to present the Society for International Development's Leadership in Development Award to Henrietta Fore. To be honest, it's also a bit overwhelming to be in this position since so many of you here know her way better than I do. I talked with my 11-year-old son about this last weekend, and he told me, "Come on, Mom, it's easy to give awards. Just say she's awesome, smart, caring, blah, blah, blah. Then thank her for all she's done." So reflecting on his advice and also recognizing a teachable moment, I thanked him for the reminder that indeed this is really fun to give awards to awesome people. And I also reminded him that substance is a lot more important than spectacle, and he should pay a whole lot more attention to the blah, blah, blah if he would ever like to be in the envious position of receiving a leadership award. And so for this award, which recognizes extraordinary contributions to our field, we need look no further than to Henrietta Fore. Henrietta has served in numerous leadership roles, including as USAID Administrator, Director of Foreign Assistance, Undersecretary for Management at State, CEO of Holzman International, and the Director of the U.S. Mint. And now, as the current executive director of UNICEF, she leads pioneering efforts to ensure millions of children around the world are able to survive and thrive in a safe environment. She's received numerous awards for her outstanding performance, including Distinguished Service Award from the State Department and the Alexander Hamilton Award from the Treasury Department, both of which represent each department's highest honors. Former State Department Secretary Condoleezza Rice described Henrietta as one of the best public servants I've ever known because she's one of the best people. And in addition to all of this, she has served on numerous boards, more than 20 boards for organizations, not-for-profit organizations, and government service, where she brings her passion to do good and her experience on how to achieve success to those around the world. Throughout these years of service, Henrietta has consistently made contributions in 3 areas that I think merit special attention today. First, as a humanitarian, she has led public sector organizations and private companies with her strong moral compass, anchored in dignity and integrity. In a 2017 interview with Forbes, Henrietta noted that opportunity, diversity, equality, and inclusion are essential in an organization and in a country, and that these things are critical not only for success, but for the development of human progress. At UNICEF, she's modeled these core humanitarian values in numerous ways, which include visiting relief efforts in extremely violent contexts, such as South Sudan, and prioritizing critically important programming, such as psychosocial support for Rohingya children and thousands of others around the world traumatized by war and famine. Whether at home or abroad, through her words and her deeds, Henrietta reminds us to do the right thing and to live our values. Second, she's brought business acumen and private sector discipline to development and diplomacy. She believes in the power of big data and in leveraging partners across the global development enterprise to bring the best products, services, and innovative ideas to achieve development goals. As a practical business leader, she understands the importance of building trust to achieve trust with staff, clients, and beneficiaries to achieve common goals. As the administrator for USAID, she successfully launched the Development Leadership Initiative to invest in nearly doubling the number of foreign service officers and bringing international leadership back to the agency. By placing highly qualified staff in key positions, she garnered goodwill across the agency, pushing forward a number of key reforms, many of which focused on performance and accountability. Both at USAID and now at UNICEF, she leads by thinking big, starting small, and scaling fast. Last but not least, she has served as a role model to me and to thousands, and I might say even millions, of other women around the world who aspire to make a difference at home and abroad. At USAID, her emphasis on public-private partnerships and entrepreneurship helped catalyze new types of development assistance to spark and sustain economic opportunities for women around the world. At UNICEF, she's continued to build on this experience to further gender equality and reduce discrimination against girls at home, in the community, at school, and in the workforce. And as global co-chair for the organization Women Corporate Directors, Henrietta helped women in more than 80 countries advance visionary corporate governance. As one of her colleagues in that organization noted, as global co-chair, Henrietta has moved mountains to further the equality of women, minorities, and indigenous people, not only onto boards of directors, but in every sphere of life. I could go on for another hour having fun talking about Henrietta's extraordinary contributions to our shared vision to advance equitable development, but I'm sure you would much rather hear from her directly. So in closing, I ask you to please join me in congratulating this truly awesome woman for her award for leadership and development. Thank you. Here's my phone. Do you need it?
I would think so.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Melissa, I want you to know that that was a superb introduction. But when you began, I thought that your son actually made a good point about how one should introduce someone. And, you know, at UNICEF, we always talk about making sure that we are listening to the voices of the young. So next time we can try his approach. But I love this introduction, and I hope I'm going to be able to live up to it. So thank you all very much. It's wonderful to be here tonight, and it's wonderful to be back in this building. What is also a bit difficult this evening is that I see many old friends. So I want to thank many of you for coming tonight. Some of you I've known for 30 years, which is a very long time. And those of you who are students, who are up on the second level, and also down here, I just want you to know that this is the best career you could ever have. So please join all of us and do this for a whole lifetime. So thank you. So in many ways, this award is for all of us tonight, because here I see my teachers, my collaborators, my friends, and my successors. And so all of that makes us think about how we as the development community should engage. And as you have been hearing, I do believe in public and private partnerships and the importance of designing and developing solutions together. Solutions that not just look after people, but it looks after their communities and it looks after their futures. So we must be forward-thinking in the world that we are living in. All of you have worked in governments and in media to keep the needs of people and their communities front and center, making the case for funding, for building political and public will that will allow us all to invest in development. And you've been part of a much larger global effort to carve out a place for the needs of the most disadvantaged and the less fortunate in the boardrooms and in the halls of power around the world. That's leadership, and each one of us should spare no help to help individuals, communities, and countries climb the development ladders. I know we are also honoring Kofi Annan, and I must say that I carry great respect for him, and I'm honored to be with his family tonight. In 1999, on the International Day of Peace, Kofi Annan gave one of his many articulate speeches, and in it he said, "It may seem sometimes as if a culture of peace does not stand a chance against a culture of war, the culture of violence and the culture of impunity and intolerance. Peace may indeed be a complex challenge, dependent on action in many fields and even a bit of luck from time to time. It may be a painfully slow process and fragile and imperfect when it is achieved. But peace is in our hands. We can do it. Through your work, the people in this room, you have done exactly this. You are among all of us who build peace. We prove that peace is possible. Peace among herders and agriculturalists, among Christians and Muslims, among tribal leaders and political parties. That development is possible, that a better world is possible, and that it is in our hands, and that we can do it. And that a bit of luck and a few stars aligning always helps. All of us together, development professionals, diplomats, academics, think tank and policy professionals, people working in NGOs and civil society, community leaders, healthcare workers, innovators and business people, teachers, and parents. You've dedicated your careers to helping development take hold in parts of the world where a vaccination, a bed net, a drink of clean water, a cup of nutritious food, a seat in a classroom, or a paved road can seem a distant dream. Communities that are penned in by poverty, by exclusion, by discrimination, economic inequality, and conflicts. Overcoming these barriers means constantly looking ahead to the future. The world is contending with a rising number of conflicts, the largest number since the Cold War, with unprecedented levels of migration, with unchecked inequality that denies children living in urban slums and rural communities alike to have an equal chance at education, at healthcare, and at a future. Today, in over 190 countries, you can find UNICEF and you, who are our partners, delivering nutrition and vaccinating children, providing water and emergency health care and education and protection services to the displaced. We work in humanitarian and in development contexts. We're building bonds of trust with governments and communities who come to rely on our advice and support. We're reassuring communities that our only concern is for the children, that we have no political motive, no desire to choose sides or favor one group over another, only an overriding mission to deliver health, help, and hope to children in need, period. Even in hard-to-reach communities and areas like the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, where we're working with authorities to access hard-to-reach areas in a difficult humanitarian environment, and delivering immunizations, nutrition and services, and treatments for diarrhea, while also working to improve water supplies in the long term. And in Yemen, the worst humanitarian disaster in the world today, where UNICEF and our partners are strengthening community water systems, delivering antibiotics and supplies to hospitals, immunizing children against diseases. Today, we're in the midst of a polio vaccination drive, and providing cash transfers to families to help them through crises. All investments in people and communities that can serve both immediate and future needs. Beyond our work in emergencies, we're a trusted development organization supporting governments as they construct schools and hospitals and resilient water and sanitation services, and helping them strengthen lasting community-based health systems, all of the ingredients that are needed to support healthy, educated, and prosperous population over the long term. Through our work at UNICEF and with all of our partners like you, we are demonstrating that we can achieve results, progress, and development, even in the most difficult and dangerous places. But we also know that we must do more. The Sustainable Development Goals depend on the world coming together to dramatically accelerate our work across a number of areas. So at UNICEF, we're taking the lessons we've learned from our partners in the development community over the years and calling for the world to join us in gathering around what we see as 5 key priority accelerators, 5 pathways to achieve even more progress in the years ahead. And for those of you who have worked for me and with me, you will notice some trends here that you've heard about before. So let me start on the 5. First, we must continue planting the seeds of development in every humanitarian program. We want our responses to emergencies to not only save and improve lives in the short term, but to help fragile communities and countries to recover, rebuild, and better respond to future crises. For example, in emergencies, UNICEF is re-looking at our use of temporary water supply, usually through trucks, as a last resort, and focusing instead on how to repair or establish parastatals, water and sanitation infrastructure, such as pipes and water pumps, that can sustain progress over time. In eastern Ethiopia, for example, we developed water systems in small towns fed by deep wells, which reduced the impact of droughts on those communities, saving lives. And our emergency health interventions quickly refocus on revitalizing community health systems, including routine immunization in urban slums or remote communities to make them more resilient to shocks over the long term. And working with WHO, we supported the establishment of community health systems in part of Somalia that have helped the country respond rapidly and effectively to the last cholera outbreak and to manage cases of acute malnutrition. But all of this is needed now in 2018 and in 2019, so we're just setting up for the future. So in short, by investing in times of crises, we can also invest in our future. Across our humanitarian work, we want to make these kinds of longer-term examples the norm and to work with our partners, many of whom are you in this room, to make it happen. Our work should be community-owned and maintained, and it should be sustainable. Second, we must focus on scaling up integrated primary health care directly in communities. Experience shows that community health systems are the most effective platform to deliver this care and integrate a range of services at a single service point, including nutrition and early childhood development programs. For example, UNICEF and our partners are using the community networks built to deliver the polio vaccine in many countries to scale up additional immunization campaigns, HIV testing, and nutrition screening. Last month in Astana, we celebrated the Alma-Ata Convention, and global leaders agreed on the importance of accelerating our work on primary health care. I dream that every mother would have a chance to walk to a community clinic with a sick child. For we must find all new ways to design and deliver these services through the formal health systems and through innovative mobile and digital health approaches that can reach underserved populations. Kazakhstan's widespread digital health system and mental health programs in schools are reminders of the need for innovation. Which brings me to my third point, pursuing innovation in every aspect of our work. Of course, innovation is about research and developing new medicines and diagnostics and vaccines. For example, UNICEF is working with the private sector to develop product innovations to scale up the use of pneumonia diagnostics and oxygen therapy in disadvantaged communities. And we're working with companies to develop new and less costly formulations of ready-to-use therapeutic foods and to treat children with severe malnutrition. But innovation is also about applying existing technology in new ways to provide vital services closer to the hardest-to-reach populations. For example, through a concept we have called Rapid Pro, we're using digital technology to improve the quality, reach, and feedback of vital health information, from helping us monitor the immunization of millions of children in Indonesia, to training health workers in Senegal, to providing support for Palestinian children with disabilities. And we're working with partners to use drones so that more quickly we can deliver, for example, HIV test results in Malawi, but also using drones in Vanuatu and in Kazakhstan. We are looking for innovative products, services, and platforms, and programs that your organizations might be using or that you may have seen and want to pilot. We want to explore ways to join up our work with yours and in communities around the world, and we want to scale up these innovations. Fourth, we must pursue more public-private partnerships that can improve children's lives. Like many of your organizations, UNICEF's work has been for a long time with the business community, rapidly moving beyond our formerly donor-based relationship. We're taking every opportunity now to tap into the innovations, products, and reach of both global and local businesses in our work, and co-creating new initiatives that can better reach children and get the support that they need. Our work to drive down the price of vaccines to historic lows is a good example of how we can join public and private forces to reach millions of children with the life-saving support they need. We also want to explore a number of new cutting-edge areas of work with all of you and with our corporate partners. A long-awaited HIV vaccine, new diagnostic tools that can rapidly detect diseases, digital identity systems that would bring together vital information across sectors, education and health services and banking, energy-independent household toilet and waste management systems, scanners that can screen pharmaceuticals to ensure that they are genuine, non-counterfeit qualified products without ever opening the packaging, and on it goes. We have a list of challenges, and we would love to hear from you if you have some innovations and public-private partnerships that you can suggest to us. And fifth, last, we must scale up support for the 1.8 billion young people in the world today. Every month, 10 million young people reach working age, 18. Will they get the education that they need? Will they get the skills required to compete in today's workplace? Will jobs even be available? Will they know how to open a business of their own and become entrepreneurs? Will they suffer from violence and discrimination? Will they access health care, sanitation, and nutrition to support their bodies and brains as they develop? Well, last month, UNICEF launched a new partnership called Generation Unlimited. They named this themselves. It's now Gen U. They're saying it's our time, our turn, our unlimited future. And our goal is very simple. It is to get every young person in school learning, training, or age-appropriate employment by the year 2030. So this 1.8 billion young people are between the ages of 10 and 24. And Gen U brings together partners, including businesses and young people, to identify and scale up new solutions to support young people's education and skills training, from digital learning to apprenticeships to work-study programs and job shadowing opportunities. Perhaps you've seen some ideas or innovations at work in your own organizations or networks. We'd love to hear about them, and please take every opportunity to open doors within your own operations to mentor students and young people as they start out in their careers in development. We need them as much as they need us. As they say, don't talk about us without us. We are 25% of the world's population, but we are 100% of your future. So all of us are and must continue to be leaders in global development community, identifying solutions and scaling them up, tapping into innovations that can improve and save people's lives, making the case for investing in a more developed world in country after country, those racked by conflict, and building political and the public will to do the necessary that will bring peace everywhere, and bringing more partners to our cause. And as always, demonstrating through our work that the more peaceful world that Kofi Annan spoke about is not only in our hands, but it is achievable. In an interview in the New York Times in 1997, he said, with his typical wisdom, "A good leader must also be a good follower." So in accepting this beautiful award that you have just given to me, I cannot help but think of all the people that I have worked with at organizations, the great nonprofits and think tanks of Washington. I will never forget the first days, nearly 30 years ago, when I first walked into the halls of the State Department and went up for my first briefings at USAID into a little bureau called the Bureau for Private Enterprise. And I think George Lodato was probably there that day. But I have had the honor to serve in USAID, in Treasury, and in State Department, and then in USAID again. And I just want to thank all of you who have shaped my experience and my intellectual curiosity over the years. So this award is really for all of you. So thank you. And somebody, that's this good.
She didn't disappoint, right? Truly awesome. So I just want to thank all of you this evening for coming, for enjoying this celebration of international development, of Kofi Annan and of Henrietta Fore. It's been a terrific evening. I hope that all of you are interested in continuing to convene, maybe not intervene, at the YPN happy hour, or YPN after party that DAI and Making Sense have graciously sponsored. It is taking place at 1319 Street Northwest. So hopefully everybody will be able to come to the Young Professionals Network after party. I am told that nobody checks your age at the door and that we are all young at heart, so everybody is encouraged to attend. Thank you once again, all of you, for coming to tonight's dinner, and we look forward to seeing you at future SID events.